Dirt Trax is sponsored by Polaris, think outside. Can-Am, time for some off-road living. And by Yamaha, revs your heart.
Can-Am claims that the new Commander is the ultimate do-all side-by-side, and it can do anything from work to recreational riding to sport riding. It has tons of features that are supposed to support each one of these uses, and I wanted to put that claim to the test. So I brought our Commander to my house where I've got a whole bunch of dirt I got to shovel onto my horrible-looking yard and see just how well it actually works. After that, I'm going to take this little one out for a fun ride and see if we can find a place to go for a swim to cool off. But first, the work has to get done, right? All right, let's go do it. The number one feature of any utility side-by-side is always the cargo box, and usually if it's utility, the bigger the better, the more capacity the better. The new Commander though has got a great dumping cargo box. It's super deep, so you can pile stuff in it really high. It's got a 600-pound capacity, and it obviously dumps, so you can dump stuff out really easily. So what do you think, Kelly? Is this better than doing this with a wheelbarrow? A little bit? Great big wheelbarrow with a motor? Another super important feature of a utility side-by-side, especially if you're going to be working around your yard or anywhere on sensitive surfaces, is turf mode. And the new Commander has turf mode, which is excellent. I'm going to be driving across my lawn, which is already in terrible shape, so I'm not really that worried about it. But for anybody who's got a beautiful lawn or anything you don't want to tear up, you gotta have turf mode. So that just really lends itself to how utility focused this vehicle actually is. You know, another really important feature on top of turf mode when you're going to be working around your yard is some level of throttle control. So I can put this in Eco, which softens the throttle response. It makes it way easier to drive across my grass without tearing everything up. While the mirrors are not standard features on this vehicle, they don't come with it from the factory, this unit has them, and I gotta be honest, after doing some of this work in my yard, backing up into dirt piles and where I'm gonna dump, they're a must-have feature. I mean, I would throw these mirrors on. I'd pay for them any day of the week if this was my Commander, so just something to think about. They're super handy, super useful, and they integrate really well into the vehicle. They look really slick. This Commander's got a really strong hydraulic ram underneath the dump box. Now, it's not automatic hydraulic. It's not like flip a switch and it dumps, but it's hydraulic assist and it's really strong. So even with this much dirt in the back, piled right up to the front of the box, I can still basically dump it with one hand and it's super easy. All right, Kelly, I think that's enough work for one day. What do you think? Let's go find a place to cool off.
Yeah, I think we should find a place to go swim.
Go swimming? All right. Well, I tell you what, I'll load up the cooler and the chairs. You go get your bathing suit on. Now, obviously, we just loaded up dirt in the box of this thing, but there's so many more utility functions you can use it for. It has a winch if you're going to be hauling wood or trees, pulling trees over, anything like that, needing to tow stuff. The winch is great for that. There's tons of storage in here for hauling tools or equipment or anything else that you might need to carry with you. And obviously the bed is massive. So there's a bunch of other features on here too that aren't standard. So there's the headache rack on the back with the tool holder. So, you know, you can pile, let's say you did pile wood in the back, you can pile it up super high and not worry about coming into the cab if you hit the brakes. There's all kinds of different functions you can do with this thing. With 1,000 cc's and 100 horsepower, it's got more than enough power to haul any size of load, and it can tow up to 2,000 pounds. So if you do have a trailer, your utility functions just go through the roof. All right, go put your helmet on, Kyle. Okay, your seatbelt on. All right, you ready to go? I know the perfect spot. I have to say, one of the most impressive things about this vehicle, driving it on a trail, is how smooth it is and how easy it is to just drive it as smooth as you want, especially when you've got a passenger with you or you've got a load of gear in the back. It's really easy just to feather the throttle. It's not jerky, really nice to drive that way. But other things, other features, you know, like multi-mode throttle, if you're in a tight section and you just want to go nice and easy and pick your way through, you can use the eco mode and it softens the throttle up. So it's little things like that that really make it a pleasure to drive as a recreational vehicle when you're not trying to go, you know, 60 miles an hour. The other thing that's really impressive to me about this vehicle is the suspension. Man, is it ever smooth. And I know it's got a longer wheelbase, so inherently it's going to make it feel smoother, but the suspension is set up very soft, and I like it a lot for this type of use. Of course, if you are on the trail and you get yourself into trouble, you've got Visco lock, Can-Am's 4x4 on-demand system, and it's right here on the dash. It's easy to use. An unlocking rear diff, as I said before, I think I called it turf mode, but it's just basically an unlocking rear diff with a separate button. That's super handy. Another thing I noticed as a bigger guy, there's lots of leg room in here. I'm not feeling crunched up or like I'm shoved in place. I don't even think the seat's all the way. Yeah, the seat wasn't even all the way back, so there's tons of leg room in here. When I was working in the yard with it, the seating position wasn't as good as I thought it could be for work, but the reality is you're not going to use this thing for work all the time, only some of the time. So for the most of the time you're going to be using this for sport, the seating position is fantastic. After putting a whole bunch of miles on this, I gotta say, these might be some of my favorite doors in the industry. They work awesome. They're so like positive, they latch positive. The interior finishing on them is excellent. There's a little space to rest your arm. There's the door handle that's sturdy, like really sturdy and comfortable, especially for the passenger to hold on to on the side of the door if they want to. This is a spot I've come to many times with my family to actually camp. And one of the things about camping with a multi-purpose side-by-side like this one versus a full-size utility side-by-side is that when you've got a family of 4, you tend to carry a lot of camping gear. And as big as this box is, sometimes it's not big enough, which is why Can-Am has offered this really cool accessory for the Commander, this bed extender. And it's a slick setup that works really, really well. You simply unfold it just like this, done, 100% ready to go, and you've just extended your bed capacity by almost 25%. This would give me enough room to carry all the gear I'd need to camp with my family for a whole weekend. Clearly the new Commander is great at doing utility stuff and it's great at regular trail riding, but I know for sure that you are all wondering how good is it at really ripping the trails. And anybody who knows me knows I've already done that for you.
Dad.
Yes, what? Sorry.
Swimming.
Okay, right. Let's go swimming. Now I know this isn't the typical test ride style story that you may have been expecting on the Can-Am Commander, but this has been an interesting story for me because I got to experience all three of the different types of personalities this vehicle has and learn about what it does well and what it could improve on in each different scenario. To me, after this experience, I've learned that yes, it can do three different things, and yes, it does all three of them well, and I think this makes it a great multi-purpose side-by-side for anybody in almost any scenario. Okay, kiddo, I think it's time to head home. All right. Yes, we did some work, we did some riding, and I did some high-speed trail running as well. But the most fun part of this story for me was spending time with my daughter and just getting out on the trails, recreating, finding a cool place to swim. And that's what ATVing is all about, and that's what the Can-Am Commander allows you to do first and foremost. Did you have fun? Yeah. Since 2016, the Highlifter 1000 from Polaris hadn't seen a new exhaust design from MBRP. So when we heard that they were putting a new design into production, we put our names at the top of the list. And this exhaust that we have right here may quite possibly be the first production unit that left the assembly line over at MBRP. We have the Highlifter to put it on, and we're excited because if there was ever a category in off-road that could use the big throaty sound of an exhaust the most, the mud market is #1 on that list. I know I give you a lowdown on MBRP products every season, but that's because I know the folks and they're not going to compromise just to make some noise. And what that means is that you get a thoroughly tested and retested product that has massively increased flow of over 25% compared to stock, making your engine, which is essentially a big gas-powered air pump, move more air. And that increased airflow means better performance. Another hallmark MBRP guarantee is never to go backwards with power and never to make a claim that isn't dyno or flow bench tested. The exhaust for the Highlifter had to be specifically designed due to the differences between the regular Sportsman and this Highlifter. So what you get in the end product is a really high quality 5-inch diameter body that's completely rebuildable. And the 304 stainless design is not coated, so that you can polish it back to a mirror finish at any time should it get dull. Likewise, the end cap is removable, allowing you to purchase a repacking kit from MBRP to rebuild the exhaust when required, something that many exhaust manufacturers don't account for. The bracketry for mounting is precision laser cut for guaranteed fitment using your stock exhaust mounting locations, so it means no cutting or welding is required. Another area to be aware of is that you don't need to reprogram your ATV's ECU or run a piggyback controller of any kind or even change your airbox in any way, shape, or form. And this makes install super simple and means that you don't need to second guess if you're getting the performance from your new exhaust. It's designed to be a bolt-on and ride product with no other tuning required, and personally I like that because it's foolproof. You buy it, you bolt it on, and you go get it dirty. One thing that you're going to notice when you remove the old exhaust is weight. While you're not going to save a ton, a few extra pounds never hurts. MBRP also claims that their exhaust improves throttle response and sounds better. Well, as for the throttle response, I'm not certain as the Highlifter hits pretty hard as is, but I can certainly hear the engine and the audible connection between my thumb and ears is enhanced with the increased sound. The exhaust note from the Highlifter isn't abusive. It's throaty, deep, and crisp. However, it is recommended for race use only. Now, if you're looking for something even more aggressive, the Highlifter exhaust core can be removed to increase sound and flow, but this we're pretty sure will cause issues with your neighbors. When you're out riding in the mud, a lot can get muffled from the grass, the mud, and the water, but when you're riding with an MBRP pipe on your Highlifter, your buddies aren't going to lose you. When I go out and play in the mud, it's nice to know others who ride with me can hear me. Sometimes you're in tight quarters and it's good to have that crisp roar letting my buddies know where I am. Also, let's be honest, when I get stuck, it's not hard for them to hear me spinning the tires and in need of a winch. Now, my biggest problem with the exhaust on this Highlifter from MBRP is that when I get off of it, I want everything else to sound like this.
Now I know that noise doesn't always actually equal horsepower, but mentally, it certainly does.
Polaris has, without question, dominated the sports side-by-side marketplace since they invented it over 13 years ago. As I'm sure we're all familiar, the first RZR was a 50-inch wide 800, and while by today's standards it's not very impressive, back then it was awesome. Polaris's next step was the RZR S, which simply widened the 50-inch RZR to 60 inches and quickly became the model you needed if you wanted to go fast. In 2022, the 60-inch RZR is now called the Trail S, and while 13 years have passed since the original RZR S, the formula has stayed exactly the same. Take a 50-inch RZR and widen it by 10 inches. The Trail S really is the perfect halfway point between a 50-inch trail and the 64-inch RZR XP, and is a hugely popular model for Polaris. The version we have here is the 1000 Premium. It's powered by a 999cc naturally aspirated parallel twin that makes 100 horsepower. Now this isn't a mind-bending number, but in a vehicle that's narrower, shorter, and lighter than the higher horsepower models, 100 ponies feels pretty dang good. This is well evidenced by the impromptu test AJ and I did when we compared the Trail S with the Pro XP. On our top secret high-speed woods track, the Trail S was a mere 2 seconds slower than the 181 horsepower Pro on a 1-minute lap. To me, this highlights a couple of very important points. First, power to weight plays a huge role in overall performance. And second, more horsepower doesn't always equal more speed in the woods. When it comes to suspension, the Trail and Trail S models are the only RZR units in Polaris's lineup still using a double A-arm design out back. Is this a negative? Not in my opinion. The way the Trail S is intended to be used, on the trail, the double A-arms work great. 13.2 inches of rear-end travel and 12.25 inches of front-end travel is damped by a set of 2-inch bodied Walker Evans needle shocks with 16 clicks of compression damping adjustability. Ride quality is definitely stiffer than on the longer travel RZR models, but by no means is it harsh. With the clicker set to full soft, the ride is actually decidedly plush. Likewise, handling with power-assisted steering on the Premium 1000 model is excellent. Its 79-inch wheelbase, which is actually pretty short by today's standards, makes it handle quick and feel incredibly flickable. Getting the back end out in the corners requires almost no effort at all. This shorter wheelbase also allows for a very compact turning radius, which makes maneuvering tight sections on the trail so much easier than in the larger XP models. Now, despite a slight ground clearance disadvantage, because it's shorter, it also doesn't get hung up as easily when rolling over obstacles. Last season, the Trail and Trail S models got a facelift to bring their styling in line with the rest of the RZR lineup. Now I think this thing looks awesome. Its blunt nose and curved roll bar make for a fast but tough appearance. The interior got a mild makeover as well. Seats are comfortable, the seating position is much more upright than in the XP models. But both AJ and myself feel this is actually a huge benefit on the trail because it offers way better sightlines out the front of the vehicle. Polaris's standard CV transmission and high-low gearbox transfer power to the ground, and a high-performance version of their on-demand true 4x4 system keeps all four wheels spinning when you need them the most. If you're shopping for a RZR Trail S, you have to make up your mind what model you want. The 900 Sport represents an unbeatable value in the sport side-by-side market. The only real downsides to this model, in my opinion, are the lack of power steering and the 900 motor only making 75 horsepower. However, you will also likely save a bit of money on your insurance because of the smaller displacement. The step up to the premium model we have here isn't a small one in terms of price. The difference is $2,300 US. For that, you get the 1000 motor with 25 extra horsepower, included power steering, Walker Evans adjustable needle shocks, and LED lights with cool accent lighting. Now, if you know you're going to spend money on a roof and a stereo, two of the most popular upgrades in the industry, it really does make more sense to just upgrade all the way to the Ultimate. For an extra $1,800 over the Premium, you get the full Ride Command system with 7-inch display and rear-view camera, Rockford Fosgate Stage 1 audio, and a poly roof. So what's the final verdict on the RZR Trail 1000S? Is it right for you, or should you just step up to the wider, longer, and more expensive 1000 XP? If you're a trail rider who doesn't spend any time in sand dunes or on a track, The RZR Trail 1000S offers all the comfort, performance, and capability you'll ever need without the higher price tag of the larger, more powerful units. In my opinion, this makes it a no-brainer choice for a large number of side-by-side buyers.
Dirt Trax has been sponsored by Hercules Tire, ride on our strength. Gemco Cargo Boxes, be prepared for anything. And by Mad Ramps, leave the trailer and go.